You open your eyes, not in your bed, but in a small, rather unassuming home in the French countryside. The year is the early 1800s, and the air smells of freshly baked bread and the distant scent of a wood fire. You are, in essence, our protagonist, born into a world on the cusp of profound change, yet still deeply rooted in agrarian rhythms. Your early life isn't marked by grand events or noble lineage. Instead, it's defined by a quiet, observant nature. As a child, you don't find joy in boisterous games as much as you do in solitary wanderings. Your playground isn't a manicured garden, but the sprawling, untamed woods and fields that stretch beyond your village. This is where the seeds of your unique path are sown. You see the world with a particular intensity, while other children might chase butterflies. You're captivated by the intricate patterns on a fallen leaf, the delicate structure of a spider's web glistening with dew, or the way light catches the dew on the underside of a fern. There's an innate curiosity, a nascent scientific inclination that manifests not through books, which are scarce and expensive, but through direct, tactile engagement with nature. You pick up stones, marvel at their geological veins. You watch insects, studying their determined scurrying, and you spend hours, quiet as a mouse, observing the slow, relentless unfurling of new life from the soil. And this isn't just childish play. It's the beginning of a profound dialogue with the natural world. A dialogue conducted in silence and observation. Your artistic talent, too, emerges early, almost instinctively. You're drawn to charcoal from the fireplace, sketching on scraps of paper or even smooth stones. Your drawings aren't of fantastical beasts or heroic figures. They're precise renderings of the plants you find, the birds you see flitting between branches, or the textures of tree bark. Your hand, even then, possesses an unusual steadiness, a meticulousness that hints at the dedication to come, you learn. To mix pigments from natural sources, berries, crushed flowers, creating a rudimentary palette that allows you to translate the vibrant hues of the forest onto your makeshift canvases. This self-taught artistry, combined with your insatiable curiosity about the natural world, begins to set you apart. Historians still argue whether this early rural immersion was a definitive factor in his later specialization, or simply a nurturing ground for a pre-existing predisposition. Some scholars suggest that the relative isolation of the countryside, away from the rigid structures of urban education, allowed his natural inclinations to flourish unhindered. Others contend that his unique vision would have found its outlet regardless of his upbringing, a testament to pure, unadulterated passion. What is certain, however, is that these formative years imbued you with a deep reverence for the minute details of the environment, a patience that would prove indispensable, and a certain self-reliance in your pursuit of knowledge and beauty. You probably didn't realize it then, but every sketch of a daisy, every pressed leaf, was a tiny step towards a monumental artistic and scientific undertaking. It was like you were unknowingly training for the fungal Olympics, just without the tiny little mushroom-sized hurdles. You absorb knowledge from local villagers. It's old wives' tales about medicinal plants, the best spots for wild berries. The signs of changing weather. This practical, folkloric knowledge blends seamlessly with your empirical observations, creating a holistic understanding of your immediate ecosystem. You might not have had access to grand libraries, but your library was the forest itself, its pages turned by the wind, its stories told in the rustle of leaves and the murmur of streams. And somewhere in those pages, unnoticed at first, were the humble, sometimes bizarre forms of fungi, waiting for your discerning eye to truly see them. The world outside your rural haven is stirring, and a subtle pull begins to tug at you. The call of Paris, the beating heart of 19th-century France, grows stronger with each passing year. It's a city synonymous with art, science, and intellectual ferment. A place where aspiring talents converge to hone their craft and seek recognition. For someone like you, with an already keen eye and a burgeoning skill, staying in the countryside while nurturing ultimately limits your potential. You know deep down that to truly flourish, to transform your innate ability into a recognized profession, you must immerse yourself in the vibrant, competitive world of the academies and salons. It's like realizing your local open mic night isn't quite cutting it when you dream of playing. Carnegie Hall, you've got to go where the big brushes are. So, with a mixture of trepidation and immense anticipation, you make the journey to the capital. Imagine the sensory overload as you arrive. The cacophony of horse-drawn carriages clattering over cobblestones. The bustling markets overflowing with exotic goods. The sheer density of humanity. The narrow, winding streets of old Paris would have been a stark contrast to the open fields and quiet forests you left behind. It's a city of grand boulevards and hidden courtyards, of glittering opera houses and dimly lit artists' garrets. You find yourself navigating this labyrinth, seeking out the institutions that promise formal training, the hallowed halls where techniques are taught and traditions are upheld. You enroll in an art academy, perhaps the prestigious École des Beaux-Arts, or a more specialized private atelier. Here you encounter a structured approach to art that is a world away from your self-taught methods. You spend countless hours meticulously drawing from plaster casts, perfecting anatomical studies, and mastering the nuances of perspective and composition. Your natural talent for observation serves you well, but now it's refined, disciplined by academic rigor. You learn the precise mixing of oils, the delicate application of watercolors, and the art of capturing light and shadow with fidelity. This period is crucial, provides you with the technical bedrock upon which your future unique contributions will be built. It's the artistic equivalent of learning to play scales before you compose your symphony of fungi. You'd think that after spending so much time observing the minute details of nature, the rigid discipline of academic art might feel stifling. And to some extent, it probably does. You're surrounded by peers who aspire to grand historical paintings, heroic narratives, or elegant portraits of the Parisian elite. Their ambitions are tied to the established hierarchies of the art world. Yet you don't abandon your roots. In your quiet moments, perhaps sketching in a small rented room overlooking a busy street, your hand still drifts towards the organic forms you know so well. A potted plant on a windowsill, a gnarled branch seen from your window, or even the subtle variations in light on a simple piece of fruit. This period in Paris isn't just about formal training. It's also about exposure to new ideas and influences. You visit the Louvre, marveling at the old masters, understanding the history of art that precedes you. You encounter scientific discourse, perhaps attending public lectures, or browse the newly published works in the city's burgeoning bookstores. The French scientific community in the 19th century was incredibly vibrant, with groundbreaking discoveries happening in botany, zoology, and chemistry. Its intellectual atmosphere, combined with your artistic training, slowly begins to forge a unique intersection within you. It's not yet clear where this path will lead, but the confluence of art and science is steadily becoming an undeniable current in your journey. Some historians argue that this period of rigorous, almost clinical, artistic training was essential, forcing you to develop the precision necessary for accurate botanical illustration. Others maintain that it was merely a necessary detour, a conventional path that almost obscured your true calling. What is certain is that Paris, with its unique blend of artistic tradition and scientific innovation, provided the fertile ground for your specialized talent to eventually blossom. You're not just an artist anymore. You're becoming an artist with a purpose. Even if that purpose is still as hazy as a Parisian fog, having absorbed the rigorous disciplines of academic art in Paris, your path takes a decisive turn towards the world of botanical illustration. This wasn't necessarily a common ambition for artists of your caliber. Grand historical scenes or society portraits were the true tickets to fame and fortune. Yet your inherent connection to nature, nurtured since childhood, finds a logical, albeit less glamorous, outlet here. You begin to frequent the city's burgeoning scientific institutions, particularly the Jardin des Plantes, the renowned Botanical Garden and Natural History Museum. Imagine stepping into this oasis of green amidst the urban sprawl, a living library of flora from across the globe. Here, you encounter a different kind of beauty, one that demands precision as much as poetry. You spend hours in the hothouses, sketching exotic plants, or in the herbarium, studying dried and pressed specimens. This is where you're meticulous, Observational skills, honed in the quiet French forests, truly merge with your newly acquired artistic techniques.
Ace.
You realize that botanical illustration isn't merely about drawing a plant. It's about understanding its morphology, its life cycle, its subtle variations, and conveying all of that information with absolute scientific accuracy. Every stamen, every petal, every leaf vein must be rendered with a fidelity that allows a botanist to identify the species without ever seeing the live plant. It's like drawing a highly detailed map, but for a tiny, fragile, living explorer. You begin to gain commissions, perhaps for scientific treatises or encyclopedic volumes. Your initial work might focus on more conventional plants, a newly discovered orchid, a rare medicinal herb, or a common agricultural crop rendered with unusual clarity. These early commissions, though perhaps not thrilling, are invaluable. They teach you the specific demands of scientific illustration, the need for different views of a whole plant, cross-section of a fruit, a magnified detail of a flower's reproductive parts, the importance of scale, and the necessity of capturing transient features. You learn to work quickly and accurately, often against the clock. Specimens wilt or decay. Historians often debate the precise moment when your career pivoted fully into botanical art. Was it a gradual drift? It's influenced by the scientific fervor of the age, or a specific encounter that solidified your direction? Some suggest a meeting with a prominent botanist who recognized your unique blend of artistic talent and scientific curiosity. Others propose that it was simply the natural evolution of your personal interests, finding expression in a niche that perfectly suited your temperament. What is clear is that you carved out a space for yourself where art served science, and in doing so, elevated the very act of scientific depiction into an art form. Itself, you develop a reputation for your uncanny ability to capture the texture of a fuzzy leaf, the delicate translucence of a petal, or the subtle variations in color that differentiate closely related species. Your work is not flashy. It prioritizes truth over embellishment, clarity over artistic license. Yet within this strict framework, your inherent artistic sensibility shines through. You compose your illustrations with an aesthetic grace, arranging elements on the page in a way that is both scientifically informative and visually pleasing. You might experiment with different lighting to highlight specific features, or use subtle washes of color to give a sense of depth without sacrificing accuracy. This period is one of quiet, diligent effort. You are building your portfolio, your reputation, and most importantly, your specialized knowledge. You're becoming fluent in the language of botany, learning the Latin names, understanding the classifications, and appreciating the intricate web of life that connects all plants. You're not just an artist drawing plants. You're an artist drawing for botanists, for apothecaries, for anyone who needs to understand the precise visual identity of the natural world. And somewhere in this vast green tapestry, the first subtle, intriguing shapes of fungi begin to catch your discerning eye, lurking beneath the leaves, hinting at a whole new world waiting to be painted. You might have thought you were just drawing pretty flowers, but you were actually preparing for your grand fungal destiny. It's like practicing your scales for years, only to realize your true calling is playing air guitar in a heavy metal band, except, with more scientific rigor. The transition from general botanical illustration to a singular focus on fungi wasn't an abrupt shift, but rather a slow, undeniable gravitational pull. You'd already rendered countless leaves, flowers, and fruits, capturing their familiar structures with masterful precision. But then you encountered them, the mushrooms. Perhaps it was a particularly vibrant cluster of toadstools tucked beneath a fern, their caps a startling scarlet against the damp earth. Or maybe it was the ethereal glow of bioluminescent fungi discovered during a twilight stroll. Whatever. The catalyst, these peculiar, often overlooked organisms began to captivate your imagination in a way that no orchid or lily ever had. It was like suddenly realizing that while everyone else was admiring the fancy main course, the true magic was happening with the bizarre. Sometimes glow-and-not appetizers. Fungi, unlike vascular plants, presented a unique set of challenges. And fascinations? They weren't green. They didn't photosynthesize. They emerged seemingly overnight, often in the damp, shadowy recesses of the forest, only to decay with astonishing speed. Their forms were endlessly varied, from delicate, bell-shaped caps too strange, brain-like convolutions, from intricate gills to smooth, featureless undersides. There was a mysterious, almost alien quality to them, a sense of something ancient and primal that resonated deeply with your inquisitive spirit. You begin to notice them everywhere, sprouting from decaying logs, clinging to the sides of trees, pushing through leaf litter and damp clearings. Each sighting ignited a spark. You'd sketch them in situ, trying to capture their fresh appearance before they began to wilt. You'd collect specimens, carefully wrapping them in damp moss or leaves, and rush them back to your studio, knowing you had a very narrow window of time to capture their essence. This urgency added an exciting, almost frantic dimension too. Your work, the fleeting nature of fungi, became a race against time. It's a challenge to your precision and speed. Historians still debate the specific scientific impetus behind this deep dive into mycology. Was it purely artistic fascination, or did a contemporary scientific problem or a specific mycologist inspire you to dedicate your talents to this overlooked kingdom? Some scholars point to the growing interest in natural history and the realization that fungi were poorly understood and documented compared to other flora. Their classification was chaotic, their life cycles mysterious, and their edibility or toxicity a matter of dangerous guesswork for many. Your artistic precision, therefore, offered a vital tool for scientific clarity. It was less about painting pretty pictures and more about contributing to a nascent field of study. The artistic challenge was also immense. How do you convey the slimy sheen of a freshly emerged mushroom cap, the velvety texture of another, or the delicate spore prints of a third? How do you illustrate their subtle color changes as they mature or decay? This wasn't merely botanical accuracy. It required a heightened sensory perception and an ability to translate transient characteristics onto a permanent canvas. Experimenting with different pigments, washes, and techniques to mimic the subtle translucence of gills or the powdery texture of spores. You even likely developed methods to preserve specimens for a few extra hours, perhaps through cool, damp environments, extending your precious working time. It was a race against decay, a battle fought with brushes and keen observation. This was more than a professional shift. It was a passion taking root, a quiet obsession that would define the rest of your artistic life. The world of fungi, with its hidden beauty and scientific mysteries, beckoned you deeper into its shadowed embrace. You realized that to truly document these ephemeral wonders, you couldn't just draw them. You had to understand their fleeting existence, their cycle of emergence and decay. You were about to become the unsung hero of the mushroom world, giving form and immortality to creatures that nature intended to be fleeting. And let's be honest, who else would dedicate their life to painting things that mostly just smell like damp socks and rot? Well, you, apparently. Your new obsession with fungi transforms your relationship with the natural world. No longer are you merely observing from a distance. You are now a dedicated hunter, a meticulous collector. You spend countless hours, often days, trudging through the vast damp forests of France, particularly those known for their rich mycological diversity. Imagine the sensation of the cool, damp air on your face, the rustle of leaves underfoot, the scent of earth, decaying wood, and the elusive, sometimes pungent aroma of hidden fungi. This isn't a leisurely stroll. It's a mission. You carry a sturdy wicker basket, not for picnics, but for precious specimens. Along with a small trowel, a sharp knife, and your ever-present sketchbook and pencils. You also have a keen sense of direction, or at least a healthy fear of getting utterly lost, which is essentially the same thing when you're deep in the woods. You learn to read the forest floor like a book. You know which types of trees host specific fungi, which soil conditions are favorable, and which seasons yield the most prolific growth. After a heavy rain, your heart quickens. You know it's prime time for new eruptions of fungal life, You develop an almost uncanny ability to spot the camouflaged cap of a rare bolete peeking out from beneath a pile of leaves, or the delicate gills of a fairy ring mushroom emerging from the grass. It's a skill that combines scientific knowledge, artistic observation, and plain old stubborn persistence. You'd probably beat any truffle pig in a blindfolded foraging contest. No offense to the pigs. The fieldwork itself is challenging. You navigate uneven terrain, cross swollen streams, and contend with the unpredictable French weather. You might find yourself caught in a sudden downpour, sheltering beneath the dense canopy of ancient trees, or battling swarms of persistent insects. But these discomforts fade into insignificance when you unearth a particularly pristine specimen, one whose form and color are perfect, unspoiled by pests or decay. That moment of discovery, the thrill of finding a new subject for your brush, is its own reward. Historians still argue about the extent of danger you might have faced during your expeditions. While French forests weren't teeming with large predators, like wolves or bears in the 19th century, smaller hazards certainly existed. Slippery slopes, poisonous plants aside from the fungi you were deliberately collecting, and the ever-present risk of getting lost were real concerns. Emphasize the sheer physical demands of these long days in the field, highlighting the dedication required. Others note the social isolation, as your singular pursuit often meant solo expeditions, far from the company of others. You meticulously document your finds in your field journal. For each specimen, you note the date, location, habitat, what type of tree it was near, what kind of soil, and any immediate observations about its color, texture, and size. You make quick, initial sketches, capturing the mushroom's appearance in its natural setting, its posture, and how it interacts with its environment. These field notes are invaluable, serving as a raw, immediate record before the specimen is transported to the studio. It's like taking detailed forensic photographs, but for subjects that are trying their best to melt. This intense, immersive fieldwork is not just about collecting. It's about deepening your understanding of the fungi themselves. You witness their incredible diversity, their astonishing life cycles, and their vital, if often unseen, role in the ecosystem. You observe the tiny details, the way spores fall, the subtle changes in color as a cap expands, the presence of symbiotic relationships with trees. This first-hand knowledge will later infuse your paintings with a vitality and authenticity that dry academic renderings could never achieve. You're not just painting mushrooms, you're painting their lives, their stories, and the very ground from which they spring. It's dirty, demanding work, but for you, it's pure, unadulterated passion. A love affair with the forgotten wonders of the forest floor, the moment you return from the damp, earthy embrace of the forest, your home studio transforms into a vibrant, yet precise, laboratory. This isn't a grand, airy space filled with marble statues, but likely a modest room. Perhaps with a north-facing window to provide consistent, diffuse light, crucial for accurate color rendition. Imagine the air, usually smelling faintly of paint and turpentine, now infused with the earthy, sometimes musky, aroma of your freshly gathered specimens. Your priority is to get these fleeting wonders onto paper before their delicate forms begin to fade, wilt, or worse, disintegrate into a puddle of spores. It's a race against nature's clock, a frantic yet utterly focused sprint where every second counts. You're basically a botanical forensic artist. Only your subjects are much squishier. You carefully unpack your wicker basket, arranging each mushroom with meticulous care on clean white paper or ceramic plates. Each specimen is a puzzle, a unique form demanding to be understood and immortalized. You have a range of tools at your disposal. Fine brushes, a vast array of pigments, magnifying glasses, and perhaps even small dissecting instruments. You might have a simple microscope, a relatively new invention, allowing you to observe the minute details of spores or gill structures that are invisible to the naked eye. This blending of scientific instrumentation with artistic skill is paramount. To your success, your process is systematic. For each mushroom, you begin with preliminary sketches, capturing its overall shape and posture. Then you delve into the details. You might paint several views, a full portrait of the mushroom as it grows, a view of its underside revealing the intricate pattern of its gills or pores, a cross-section showing its internal structure and perhaps even a magnified detail of its stem or cap surface. You pay obsessive attention to color, not just the broad hue, but the subtle gradients, the slight bruising, the exact sheen of a moist cap, or the powdery bloom on another. You're not just painting what you see, you're painting what you understand. About its living form, historians still argue about the extent of artistic license you might have taken with your work. While scientific accuracy was paramount, did you ever slightly enhance a color to ensure its vividness on the page or subtly adjust a form for greater clarity? Some scholars argue that your fidelity was absolute, bordering on an almost photographic realism. Others suggest that the best scientific illustrators, while precise, also brought an interpretive eye, selecting and emphasizing features that best conveyed the essence of the species. What is undeniable is your ability to translate the three-dimensional, ephemeral reality of a mushroom into a two-dimensional, enduring image, a skill that required both scientific rigor and artistic genius. The lighting in your studio is critical. You might arrange a makeshift light screen to diffuse harsh sunlight, or use a simple oil lamp to create specific shadows that highlight texture. You understand that light can make or break the visual information of your illustration. And while you work, the clock is ticking. You might have only a few hours, sometimes even less, before the specimen begins to lose its turgidity, its vibrant color dulls, or its cap starts to shrivel. This constant pressure fosters an incredible speed and efficiency in your workflow. Without compromising accuracy, it's like trying to paint a portrait of a melting ice cream cone, challenging, but deeply rewarding if you pull it off. You're not just a painter. You're a documentarian, an archivist of the perishable. Each brushstroke is a tiny act of preservation, freezing a moment in the mushroom's short life cycle for posterity. Your studio becomes a quiet sanctuary of scientific art, a place where the wild, untamed beauty of the forest is brought under precise scrutiny, transformed by your hand into enduring records. And as you work, surrounded by the delicate forms and earthy scents, you deepen your personal connection to these fascinating organisms, preparing to unveil their hidden world to a wider, often unseeing audience. The very nature of your subjects and presence, a formidable adversary, time. Unlike dried herbs or pressed flowers that can retain their form for years, mushrooms are ephemeral. They emerge with astonishing rapidity, flourish for a brief, glorious period, and then, with equal speed, begin to wilt, decay, and ultimately liquefy. This presents a monumental challenge for any artist aiming for scientific accuracy. Like being asked to paint a cloud, but you only have 5 minutes before it dissipates into thin air. Oh, and also, it might start to smell a bit funky. You quickly realize that your artistic skill, no matter how refined, is useless if the specimen before you has turned into an unrecognizable mush. Therefore, you become an expert in the art of temporary preservation. Your studio transforms into a climate controlled as much as 19th century technology allows. Anyway, Sanctuary, you experiment with various methods, placing specimens in cool, damp boxes lined with moss to mimic their natural habitat, using glass bell jars to maintain humidity, even wrapping delicate caps in cool, damp cloths. Every trick learned, every method discovered buys you precious extra minutes, sometimes an hour or two, to capture the subtle nuances of color and form before they vanish. The most critical aspect is speed. You learn to work with an intense focus, sketching and painting with a swift, confident hand. You prioritize the most important details first, the exact color of the gills, the unique texture of the cap, the specific attachment of the stem to the ground. You develop a visual shorthand, making quick reference notes about changing colors or textures as the mushroom ages, allowing you to finish the painting even after the specimen itself has begun to degrade. This isn't just art. It's a race against biological imperative. Historians still argue how much this pressure impacted your artistic style. Did the need for speed lead to a more impressionistic approach in some aspects? even within the strict confines of scientific illustration? Or did it simply hone your precision, forcing you to capture the essence with fewer, more decisive strokes? Some scholars argue that this fight against decay imbued your work with a unique vitality, a sense of capturing life at its peak. Others suggest it was a constant source of frustration, a barrier to achieving absolute perfection. What is clear is that this battle against time was a defining characteristic of your fungal endeavors. You become intimately familiar with the stages of fungal decomposition, learning to differentiate between a healthy specimen, one past its prime, and one that is simply too far gone to be useful. This knowledge informs your foraging too, ensuring you only collect specimens that are in their peak condition for illustration. You might even observe specimens through their entire life cycle, sketching the changes, noting the decay, to gain a more complete understanding for future paintings. This deeper knowledge ensures that even if you have only a few hours with a specific mushroom, your rendering reflects a comprehensive understanding of its fleeting existence. This constant struggle with the transient nature of fungi adds a layer of quiet heroism to your work. You are, in essence, an artist trying to hold back the tide of nature, to freeze a moment that nature insists on transforming. Every successful painting of a mushroom is a small victory against entropy, a testament to your dedication and ingenuity. You're giving these short-lived wonders an immortality they wouldn't otherwise possess, ensuring that their intricate beauty is seen and appreciated long after they have returned to the earth. It's a humble, yet profound act of artistic defiance, turning the fleeting into the forever, and smelling vaguely of mildew while doing it, to capture the fleeting, often translucent, and incredibly varied textures of fungi. You couldn't rely solely on traditional watercolor techniques. This quest for perfect representation pushed you to innovate, to develop unique artistic methods that went beyond mere rendering. Imagine yourself hunched over your workspace, constantly experimenting, perhaps with new brushes, different papers, or novel ways to mix and apply your pigments. You're not just an artist, you're an alchemist of color and form, pushing the boundaries of what was possible with brush and paint. It's like inventing a new guitar pedal specifically for the sound of a mushroom growing. Pretty niche, but absolutely essential. One of your significant innovations likely involved a mastery of washes and layering. Unlike opaque oil paints, watercolors achieve their luminosity through the transparency of their pigments. For fungi, this was crucial. You would apply incredibly thin, dilute layers of color, allowing each layer to dry before adding the next. This allowed you to build up subtle variations in hue and intensity, mimicking the delicate translucence of a mushroom's cap or the subtle shading of its gills. You could achieve the almost imperceptible bruising of certain species, or the way light catches the faint fuzz on a stem by patiently building up these translucent layers. This painstaking process required immense patience and a precise understanding of color theory. You probably also experimented with dry brush techniques to capture the powdery or velvety textures often found on mushroom surfaces. By using a brush, with very little paint and brushing lightly, you could create a soft, granular effect, perfectly mimicking the bloom on certain caps or the fine hairs on a stem. Conversely, to capture the slimy or glistening appearance of a freshly emerged specimen, you might have used thicker, more fluid applications, or even explored techniques to create a subtle shine on the finished work, perhaps through a final varnish or a specific type of paper. Historians still argue whether your innovations were truly groundbreaking or an evolution of existing techniques. Some scholars believe you were a solitary genius, inventing methods out of necessity. Others propose that you were part of a wider, albeit quiet, movement among natural history illustrators, sharing and adapting techniques to meet new scientific demands. What is certain is that your finished works possess a unique quality that sets them apart. Beyond just paint application, you might have also explored different types of paper or vellum. The substrate itself can greatly influence the final appearance. Perhaps you preferred a slightly absorbent paper for soft, feathered edges, or a smoother, harder surface for crisp details and vibrant colors. The texture of the paper could even be used to enhance the texture of the mushroom, becoming an almost invisible partner in your illusion. Furthermore, the use of magnification was probably a significant artistic tool. While scientific, using a strong magnifying glass or even an early microscope allowed you to see details that the naked eye would miss. The precise arrangement of spores, the cellular structure of a gill, or the microscopic hairs on a cap. Translating these microscopic details into a large-scale illustration required both technical skill and an interpretive eye, deciding which details were most informative and visually compelling. You were effectively bridging the gap between the unseen microscopic world and the visible macro world, revealing hidden beauty to your audience. These innovations weren't for self-expression in the modern sense. They were tools forged out of necessity, driven by an unwavering commitment to accurate representation. Your goal was to create images so lifelike, so detailed, that a mycologist could identify a species from your painting alone. This dedication to factual truth, combined with your artistic ingenuity, elevated your work from mere scientific diagrams. Two works of art that possessed both scientific integrity and profound aesthetic appeal. You weren't just painting mushrooms. You were giving them a voice, a visual language that transcended their fleeting existence, proving that true artistry often blossoms in the most restrictive of gardens. As your work on fungi progressed, you realized that your artistic talent, while central, was only one part of the grand puzzle. To truly create a comprehensive and scientifically valuable record of mushrooms, you needed to collaborate with the leading naturalists and mycologists of your era. Paris, as a hub of scientific discovery, provided the perfect environment for these intellectual partnerships to flourish. Imagine yourself not just as an isolated artist in a studio, but as an integral part of a burgeoning scientific community, exchanging ideas and observations with some of the brightest minds of the 19th century. It was like being the official portrait painter for a secret society of mushroom fanatics. You would visit the great scientific institutions, perhaps attending lectures or simply presenting your latest illustrations to the resident experts. These interactions were invaluable. Mycologists, though dedicated, often lacked the artistic skill to accurately depict the nuanced forms and colors of the fungi they studied. Their drawings were often rudimentary sketches, useful for basic identification, but lacking the fidelity required for true scientific documentation. Your work filled this crucial gap. You were the bridge between the observed scientific fact and its enduring visual representation. These collaborations were a two-way street. You provided the unparalleled visual accuracy, while the mycologists offered their deep scientific knowledge. They would guide you on which species were most important to document, explain the subtle morphological differences between closely related fungi, provide crucial information about habitats, distribution, and even microscopic characteristics. You learned the proper Latin nomenclature, the hierarchical classifications, and the precise terminology necessary to make your illustrations truly scientific. This wasn't just about labeling. It was about understanding the scientific context of every gill, every spore, every subtle variation in color. Historians still argue about the nature of these partnerships. Were you seen as an equal, a scientific peer, or primarily as a skilled technician serving the needs of the pure scientists? Some scholars contend that the line between art and science was far more fluid in the 19th century, that illustrators like you were considered vital contributors to scientific knowledge. Others suggest that despite your immense talent, illustrators often remained in the shadow of the named scientists, their contributions less celebrated in their own right. What is certain is that without this symbiotic relationship, your monumental work would not have achieved its scientific impact. You would spend hours discussing the particularities of a newly discovered species, sketching rapid drafts based on their verbal descriptions, and then returning to your studio to create the definitive, meticulously painted illustration. These scientists became your primary audience and critics. Their feedback, rigorous and demanding, pushed you to refine your techniques even further, ensuring that every detail was precisely rendered. If a mycologist pointed out a subtle distinction in spore shape or the exact point of attachment of a stem, you would return to your specimen, and if necessary, to the forest, to verify and correct your depiction. This network of collaboration not only enriched your understanding of fungi, but also elevated your own standing within the scientific community. Your illustrations began to appear in scientific journals, textbooks, and monographs, lending them a visual authority previously unseen. You became known not just as a talented artist, but as the artist who could truly capture the essence of fungi with unparalleled accuracy. These partnerships validated your chosen path, proving that your artistic obsession had profound scientific merit. You were no longer just painting pretty pictures. You were contributing foundational knowledge to an emerging field, immortalizing, the flitting for the sake of scientific understanding. Sometimes you even got to argue with very smart people about whether a cap was truly umbonate or just a bit lumpy. Good times as word of your unparalleled skill in depicting fungi spread through scientific circles. It wasn't long before your work began to garner broader public recognition and acclaim. While botanical illustration might not have been as flashy as portraiture or grand historical paintings, the scientific community, and increasingly the educated public, understood the profound value of accurate visual documentation. Imagine your illustrations, once confined to your studio, and the discussions of a few mycologists, now being seen in scientific journals, prestigious natural history publications, and even perhaps in public exhibitions. It's like your obscure mushroom blog suddenly went viral, but instead of cat videos, it's meticulously painted PUFFBALLs. Your reputation grows steadily. You are no longer just an anonymous illustrator. You are the definitive artist for fungi. Requests for your work come from far and wide, from universities and scientific societies across France, and perhaps even from other European nations. Your name becomes synonymous with precision, beauty, and scientific integrity in the realm of mycology. You might find yourself featured in the prefaces of scientific volumes, with renowned naturalists praising your indispensable contributions. This widespread recognition serves as both validation and motivation. It's pushing you to deepen your commitment to this unique artistic endeavor. Exhibitions of scientific art, though less common than fine art exhibitions, did exist, often within museums of natural history or learned societies. Imagine your exquisite watercolors, framed and displayed, drawing gasps of admiration not just from scientists, but from curious members of the public. People who might never have noticed a mushroom in the wild are suddenly captivated by the intricate beauty you reveal on the page. They marvel at the delicate gills, the vibrant colors, the subtle textures, all rendered with a lifelike quality that almost makes the paper seem alive. You become, in essence, an ambassador for the hidden wonders of the fungal kingdom. Opening eyes to a world previously unseen, historians still debate the true extent of your celebrity. While you were undoubtedly highly regarded within your niche, did your fame truly extend to the broader public? Or were you primarily celebrated by the scientific elite? Some scholars argue that your work, by its very nature, appealed to a more specialized audience. Others suggest that the 19th century public, with its burgeoning interest in natural history and scientific exploration, is more receptive to such detailed and beautiful scientific art than we might assume today. What is certain is that your meticulous efforts did not go unnoticed. Earning you a respected place in the annals of both art and science, your success also brings new opportunities. You might receive requests for lectures or demonstrations on your techniques, sharing your insights with aspiring illustrators or curious amateurs. You become a reference point, a standard against which other botanical illustrations are judged. The demand for your work provides you with a living, allowing you to dedicate yourself fully to your passion, free from the constraints of having to take on less interesting commissions. This newfound stability is invaluable, enabling you to pursue your monumental goal of documenting hundreds of fungal species. This period marks a pivot from quiet, solitary work to a more public persona, albeit one still deeply rooted in your artistic and scientific pursuits. You are no longer just an observer and painter. You are a respected authority, a bridge between two worlds, revealing the microscopic grandeur of the fungal kingdom to a grateful and curious audience. Your meticulous hand, once only known to a few, now shapes the understanding of mycology. For many, transforming the humble mushroom into a celebrated subject of both scientific inquiry and artistic admiration. And honestly, for a guy who spent most of his time crawling around in the mud, that's a pretty sweet deal. With your reputation firmly established and your skills honed to an unparalleled degree, you embark on the magnum opus of your career, the monumental project of cataloging and illustrating 300 types of mushrooms. This isn't merely a collection of individual paintings. It's a systematic, exhaustive endeavor aimed at creating the most comprehensive visual record of French fungi to date. Imagine the sheer scale of this task. 300 distinct species, each requiring multiple views, meticulous color matching, and precise rendering of every microscopic detail. It's like deciding to write an encyclopedia by hand, but every entry also requires a perfect, tiny, detailed portrait. And all of it, of course, has to be done before the subjects literally melt. This ambitious undertaking defines your daily existence. Your studio becomes a dedicated factory of artistic and scientific production. You organize your work with military precision, tracking specimens, managing your limited supply of vellum and pigments, and coordinating with mycologists for identification and verification. Each illustration builds upon the last, contributing to a growing library of fungal forms. You develop an internal database, perhaps a complex system of numbered folios and cross-reference notes, ensuring that no species is duplicated and every detail is accurately recorded. The process for each mushroom is a miniature journey in itself. You forage, you preserve, you paint, you document. For a particularly elusive species, you might spend weeks or even months searching for it in the wild, turning to specific forest locations again and again, waiting for the precise environmental conditions to bring it forth. This level of dedication goes far beyond professional obligation. It's a deep-seated commitment to the unknown, desire to pull back the veil on a hidden kingdom. Historians still argue about the financial backing for such a monumental project. Was it self-funded, a labor of pure passion that consumed your personal resources? Or did you secure patronage from a wealthy benefactor, a scientific institution, or even the state, recognizing the profound scientific value of your work? Some scholars suggest that such an undertaking would have been impossible without external support, given the cost of materials and the immense time commitment. Others highlight the stories of driven individuals who, against all odds, finance their own grand projects through sheer will. What is certain is that the realization of this vision required significant sacrifice and unwavering determination. You face countless small setbacks. A specimen might spoil prematurely. Particularly delicate color might prove impossible to mix precisely. A rare species might elude you for an entire season. But with each challenge, your resolve only strengthens. You learn to adapt, to troubleshoot, to push your artistic and scientific boundaries. The sheer volume of work means you become incredibly efficient, your hand moving with practiced fluidity, yet never compromising on accuracy. Your eye sees forms and nuances that would be completely invisible to an untrained observer. This magnum opus is more than just a collection of drawings. It's a profound statement about the beauty and complexity of the natural world, and about the power of art to illuminate scientific truth. It's a testament to your unyielding dedication, a life's work poured onto hundreds of pages of vellum. You are, in essence, building a permanent archive of the fleeting, a visual legacy that will serve generations of scientists and naturalists to come. Every stroke of your brush adds to this silent, beautiful symphony of fungi, a quiet testament to a man who saw the extraordinary and the often overlooked and decided to paint every single one of them. Well, at least 300 of them. Close enough for genius, right? The monumental task of illustrating 300 types of mushrooms was not merely a professional endeavor. It was an undertaking that demanded immense personal sacrifice and unwavering dedication. Imagine the solitude, the long hours bent over your workbench, the physical toll of countless foraging expeditions, and the mental exhaustion of maintaining absolute precision for years on end. This wasn't a job you clocked out from. It was a passion that consumed your life, leaving little room for conventional comforts or social engagements. It was basically the 19th century equivalent of being a workaholic, except your boss was Mother Nature and your deadlines were fungal decay. Your personal life, whatever it entailed, likely took a back seat to your singular artistic and scientific pursuit. Relationships might have been strained by your frequent absences in the field or your all-consuming focus in the studio. Gatherings, if you even attended them, would have felt like distractions from the delicate cap you needed to finish painting before it wilted. Your conversations would invariably drift back to the fascinating world of mycology, perhaps to the polite bewilderment of those around you. Who else, after all, could truly understand the thrill of finding a rare amanita, or the frustration of a particularly stubborn watercolor wash? The financial aspect, as historians still debate, would have been a constant underlying pressure. Even if you've secured some patronage, the sheer cost of vellum, high-quality pigments, and the time invested meant that luxury was certainly not a part of your daily life. You likely lived frugally, prioritizing your materials over personal comforts. Every penny would have been carefully allocated to fuel your artistic engine, ensuring that your ambitious project could continue unimpeded. This financial dedication speaks volumes about your commitment. You literally invested your livelihood into painting squishy fungi physically. The demands were considerable. Hours spent crouching and kneeling in damp forests, carrying heavy baskets of specimens, and then the long stretches of intense fine motor work in the studio would have taken a toll on your back, your eyes, and your hands. Your vision, in particular, would have been under constant strain from meticulously depicting minute details under often imperfect lighting. You would have developed a profound respect for the delicate instruments you used, and perhaps for your own body's ability to endure such sustained effort. It was a marathon, not a sprint, and your body was the trustee, albeit aching vehicle mentally. The discipline required to maintain such a high standard of accuracy over hundreds of illustrations would have been immense. Avoiding artistic fatigue, ensuring consistency, and continually pushing for greater realism demanded unwavering mental fortitude. There would have been moments of frustration, certainly when a painting didn't quite capture the ephemeral quality of a fresh mushroom, or when a rare specimen was damaged. But your drive to contribute to scientific knowledge and to create enduring beauty always propelled you forward. This dedication was rooted in a profound love for your subject. You didn't merely paint mushrooms, you revered them. Intricate wonders hidden in plain sight, the vital role they played in the ecosystem, and the sheer artistic challenge they presented. This passion sustained you through the long, solitary hours and the demanding physical work. Your work was an act of profound devotion, quiet testament to the idea that true greatness can be found not in grand pronouncements, but in the meticulous, painstaking pursuit of understanding and representing the smallest, most overlooked corners of the natural world. Your personal sacrifices were the invisible foundation upon which your visible legacy was built, transforming you from a mere artist into a true visionary. You were basically a fungal monk, meditating with paintbrushes. Your monumental work on illustrating 300 types of mushrooms didn't just fill a gap in scientific literature. It left an indelible mark on both the worlds of art and science. Your contributions transcended mere documentation, elevating the humble fungi to subjects worthy of exquisite artistic representation and rigorous scientific study. Imagine the impact of your comprehensive catalog, a visual encyclopedia that empowered scientists, educated the public, and inspired future generations of artists. It was more than just a book. It was a bridge between disparate fields built on a foundation of damp earth and delicate pigments. In the realm of science, your illustrations provided an unprecedented level of accuracy and detail. Before your work, mycological identification often relied on vague descriptions or crude drawings, leading to confusion and misidentifications, sometimes with fatal consequences, given the toxicity of many mushroom species. Your precise depictions of color, texture, gill structure, spore prints, and various growth stages became the gold standard for identification. Mycologists could now reliably distinguish between closely related species, accelerating the pace of research and classification. Your work wasn't just pretty, it was incredibly useful. It streamlined the process of understanding fungi. moving the field from anecdotal observation to systematic knowledge. From an artistic perspective, you redefined what botanical illustration could achieve. You demonstrated that scientific rigor did not have to come at the expense of aesthetic beauty. Your illustrations were not dry diagrams, but vibrant, lifelike portraits that captured the very essence of the fungi. You pushed the boundaries of watercolor and drawing techniques, proving that these mediums could render the subtle translucence, velvety textures, and ephemeral beauty of mushrooms with unparalleled fidelity. You legitimize fungi as a subject for serious artistic endeavor, inspiring other artists to look beyond conventional floral subjects and explore the vast, often overlooked, diversity of the natural world. Historians still argue whether your work was primarily art serving science or science inspiring art. Some scholars lean towards the former, emphasizing your foundational role in mycology. Others highlight your undeniable artistic genius, suggesting your work stands alone as fine art. What is clear is that your contribution blurred these lines, proving their interdependence. Your legacy extends to education and public awareness. Your work made the complex world of fungi accessible to a wider audience. Through your illustrations, people could appreciate the incredible biodiversity hidden in their local forests without needing specialized scientific training. This visual literacy fostered a greater appreciation for nature and contributed to the burgeoning public interest in natural history that characterized the 19th century. You educated generations not through lectures or treatises alone, but through the captivating power of your art. It's like you created the first viral nature documentary, only it was a series of meticulously hand-painted images. Moreover, your methods and meticulous approach set a new standard for scientific illustration as a discipline. You championed the importance of field observation, precise measurement, and the tireless pursuit of accuracy. Your collaborations with mycologists underscored the necessity of interdisciplinary work, proving that the best scientific understanding often arises from a synergy of different skills and perspectives. You were, in essence, an early advocate for what we now call science communication, making complex subjects visually compelling and comprehensible. Your painstaking efforts provided a foundation for future mycological research, laying the groundwork for more advanced studies in genetics, ecology, and pharmaceutical applications of fungi. The very classifications and identifications made possible by your detailed renderings allowed subsequent scientists to build upon a solid visual bedrock. Your artistic contributions were not just beautiful, they were building blocks for an entire field, ensuring that the ephemeral wonders of the fungal kingdom were forever enshrined in the scientific and artistic record. You turned a damp, sometimes smelly obsession into an enduring triumph of human curiosity and talent. Though much of your fame and recognition blossomed during your lifetime, the true, enduring influence of your work often extends far beyond your immediate contemporaries, quietly shaping generations of artists and mycologists to come. Imagine the countless students who thumbed through copies of your mushroom catalog, their fingers tracing the delicate lines of your illustrations, learning to identify species from your precise renderings. Picture the aspiring artists, inspired by your unique blend of scientific accuracy and aesthetic beauty, daring to tackle subjects once deemed too humble for serious artistic pursuit. Your impact, though perhaps not always heralded with fanfare, resonated deeply through the decades, subtle but powerful current beneath the surface of natural history and art. It was like planting a tiny, perfect spore that blossomed into a massive, beautiful mycelial network across the intellectual landscape. For future mycologists, your illustrations became foundational. They were the visual dictionary for a rapidly expanding field. Before the advent of reliable color photography, your hand-painted plates were often the most accurate and vibrant visual records available. Even as new technologies emerged, the depth of detail and the understanding of form captured in your watercolors often surpassed what early photographic processes could achieve. Your work provided an invaluable baseline for understanding fungal diversity, a benchmark for new discoveries, and a reliable reference for identifying even the most subtle variations within species. Generations learned their first mushroom classifications from your careful strokes. In the art world, your work broadened the scope of what was considered worthy subject matter. You proved that scientific illustration, when executed with profound skill and passion, could be as artistically compelling as any landscape or portrait. You might have inspired artists to look more closely at the overlooked corners of nature, the intricate patterns of moss, the delicate structure of lichens, the often bizarre forms of insects. Your legacy encouraged a shift towards greater realism and scientific fidelity in natural history art, pushing artists to engage with their subjects with both artistic sensibility and intellectual rigor. Historians still argue whether you were a singular anomaly or part of a wider trend in detailed natural history illustration. Some emphasize your unique depth of specialization in fungi. Others point to contemporary artists who also sought to bridge art and science, suggesting you were a leading light in a growing movement. What is certain is that your enduring works stand as a testament to the power of meticulous observation. Your method also had an unseen influence. The emphasis you placed on direct field observation, on capturing specimens at their peak, and on the battle against decay, taught invaluable lessons about the relationship between artist, subject, and environment. These practical lessons often transmitted through example in your published works, filtered down to subsequent illustrators, shaping best practices for decades. You taught them not just what to draw, but how to engage with the living world as an artist-scientist, even today. In a world dominated by digital imagery and advanced microscopy, your original illustrations retain a profound value. They are not just historical artifacts. They are living documents of a bygone era, capturing fungi as they appeared over a century ago. They remind us of the enduring power of the human hand and eye to translate the wonders of nature. Your quiet dedication ensured that the ephemeral beauty of the mushroom, a creature so easily overlooked, found a lasting place in the collective scientific and artistic consciousness. You were, in essence, a time traveler, preserving fragile moments for eternity, one perfectly painted spore at a time. As the sun sets on your remarkable life, you find yourself easing into a quiet retirement, perhaps returning to the very countryside that first sparked your connection with nature. Your hands, once so nimble with the brush, may now tremble slightly, but your eyes still hold the keen spark of observation that defined your youth. The brushes are cleaned and set aside. The vellum sheets are neatly bound in their folios, and the wicker basket, once a constant companion, rests by the door. Your monumental task is complete. 300 types of mushrooms, each one given immortality through your tireless dedication. It's like finally finishing that epic video game you started years ago, and now you can just chill and enjoy the credits. You might spend your final days surrounded by the natural beauty you so diligently documented, perhaps taking slow, contemplative strolls through familiar woods, no longer collecting, but simply observing with a profound sense of peace. You see the fungi emerge and decay, not as subjects to be captured, but as part of the endless, beautiful cycle of nature. There's a deep satisfaction in knowing that your life's work will continue to serve a purpose long after you are gone, guiding the hands of future scientists and inspiring the eyes of future artists. Your legacy isn't built on grand monuments or vast wealth, but on hundreds of exquisitely detailed paintings, each a small window into a world often overlooked. You didn't seek conventional glory. Your reward was the quiet triumph of understanding, the joy of creation, and the profound satisfaction of contributing to human knowledge. You transformed an ephemeral subject into something permanent, lending dignity and beauty to creatures often dismissed as mere slime or rot. Historians still argue about the exact circumstances of your passing. Was it a peaceful end, surrounded by loved ones? Or a quiet departure, much like the humble fungi you cherished, returning to the earth that had nourished your passion? Some scholars suggest a quiet retirement, fading into the background after. A life of intense focus. Others might imagine you sketching a final fleeting mushroom in your last moments, your passion undimmed even at the very end. What is certain is that your life was a testament to the power of single-minded dedication in the quiet pursuit of beauty and truth. As your physical presence fades, your spirit remains, forever intertwined with the delicate forms you captured. Every time a mycologist identifies a species using your illustrations, every time an artist is inspired by your precision, every time someone pauses to truly look at a mushroom on the forest floor, a part of your legacy lives on. You became, perhaps unintentionally, a silent guardian of the fungal kingdom, ensuring its visual story would endure. So, as you drift off, imagine yourself becoming one with the quiet forest floor you loved so much, resting among the very roots. In mycelial networks you dedicated your life to revealing. The cycle continues. New mushrooms emerge. The world remembers the artist who saw the extraordinary in the ordinary, who found his calling in the damp, shaded corners of creation, and who, with patience and passion, painted 300 types of mushrooms, giving them all a lasting place in our shared world. Rest easy, quiet visionary. Your work is done, and it is beautiful.